back on September 11th, 2001, I was the general manager of Manhattan Electric Operations for Con Edison, City of New York. And the summer of 2001 was a very difficult time. It was very hot, very humid. We had a lot of problems as far as the electrical distribution system. And we did an extraordinary job to get through these problems without any real effect to the public. So here we are in September. The weather is nice and cool. September 11th was a crisp, clear day, great day. Didn't have to worry about electrical problems at all. And in the morning I was up with an executive talking about a new productivity system that we developed. I received a call and the control center, emergency control center, said to me that a plane hit the World Trade Center. And then I questioned, was it a small plane? And they said to me, no, it was a commercial plane. Now, oh boy, that's not good. So I ran down to the emergency control center, which I was in charge of. And sure enough, we bring up TV broadcast, and there it is.
This just in, you are looking at obviously a very disturbing live shot there. That is the World Trade Center, and we have unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
We were starting to lose electrical feeders that fed the World Trade Center one by one. There were 4 major feeders feeding it, and they all went out. So our job was to kind of isolate the Trade Center from the rest of the system, because the Trade Center is fed from substations that feed not only the Trade Center, but also Lower Manhattan, south of Canal Street. So our job right there was to isolate those feeders, and sure enough, plane number 2 hit, and there we go, 4 more feeders out. So we sent out a crew and sent up a command center down at ground zero in the site. And we got right down there. I wasn't involved. I was back at the control center coordinating the effort. Control center manager was down there with crews to start the work. And sure enough, they were close enough where debris was falling. Not only debris, but unfortunately there were bodies of people jumping, landing right in front of them. I mean, it's quite a chaotic sight, and quite a sight that will never be forgotten. So we started getting some word of what was going on, and sure enough, the first building came down. And it was chaos, total chaos. There was fire, there was fuel oil, there was debris, there was volcanic type ash and smoke and dust where you couldn't see anything. There were fires. People were running. The command center actually got destroyed and really hell on earth. We were getting word back at the control center that it was a total disaster, nothing they'd ever seen before. Nothing they expected that a building like this would actually collapse. Now our job was to get power isolated to the Trade Center and keep Lower Manhattan in effect. There were 2 substations down right at the Trade Center, number 7 World Trade Center. But when these buildings came down, they actually destroyed all of the feeders in the area. And by 5 p.m., World Trade Center 7 was on fire. And eventually that building collapsed, which took out the 2 substations that fed all of Lower Manhattan. Our job now was to somehow restore power to Lower Manhattan. Of course, all the executives and the press and everyone else wants to know, when could power get back to Lower Manhattan? And we were focused on that. Everything else was going on, the families of people dying, and it was just horrible. But our focus, my focus, was getting power back.
What I gather, everything that all the lighting that's down at, as we're calling it, at the old World Trade Center, all that lighting is run by emergency generator. There is no lighting, electricity for this part of Lower Manhattan at this point, because all of that was knocked out by substations that were used to be at World Trade Center. Is that correct?
Under.
There were 450 megawatts of load to be picked up that were out of service. Now, 450 megawatts is basically, to give you an idea, the equivalent of the city of Hartford, Connecticut. Okay, now, how do you do this? They're out of power. There's no way of feeding these because the substations are gone. So we basically had to run shunts or cables from existing substations in other parts of Manhattan down to Lower Manhattan to pick up this electrical load. We had like 400 to 500 crews out there to run cables from other substations to pick up load throughout Lower Manhattan. 36 miles of cable. Now this is not small cable you have in your house. It's 13,000 volt cable that'd be run along the streets of Manhattan. Okay, and it had to be kept safe. You don't want cars to run over it. You don't want people to touch it. People have run over it. And so it all had to be protected. It was a tremendous, almost impossible task, but it had to get done.
Con Edison is working, I think, as intensely as they possibly can to try to get power restored. It's going to take some time.
Physically, I was up for 4 straight days, 4 days and nights without sleep. And many of us were in that control center. How do you do this? I mean, adrenaline keeps flowing. Adrenaline. One mission, one goal. We all had the same thing. Let's get it done. Let's get it done.
Any estimates on the number of Con Ed workers that you've seen go by here today?
Can't even count. You got crews here from Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, the Bronx. They're coming from all over.
Westchester as well.
All of Con Edison's here.
It was really a team effort. We're really proud of what we did. Had everyone back. Had businesses back. And the goal was to let's get back on our feet. Let's get the city back on its feet, and let's move on. The second night, I went down to that site, and it was like a surreal situation. Surreal meaning it felt like a science fiction movie. Smoke rising, buildings half erect, hundreds and hundreds of workers, firemen, police, everyone trying to clear debris, try to find bodies, try to find people alive. The smoke and dust was something you couldn't see in front of you. I mean, it was really, and this was the second night. So what I do remember is the agony of the families and finding people who were missing, the sadness that went on and the chaos that went on, and it was really something that I would never forget, and whoever was involved will never forget. To the day I die, this will be on my mind, and there's not a day, as I said, passes where something reminds me of those 4 or 5 days, September 11th, 2001.